welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to be doing a video short and sweet. It's something that I've actually got quite a lot of requests for lately, which I'm pretty surprised about. I didn't really think about getting requests for videos when I started doing YouTube, just doing it for the enjoyment really. But I'm glad to hear that there's a few people out there that are enjoying these videos as well. So one of these instructional videos, I hope that it will help out somebody. I'd love to get to 100 likes on this video. So if you're watching this, click that like button. And if you're new to the channel, click the sub button just at the bottom now. I really appreciate all the support that I've been getting, especially from all the regular people that are regularly commenting and regularly liking all my posts. When I started doing these videos just for a bit of fun really, but now I'm really getting into making them and hope that these sorts of videos can really be informative to people that are looking to get out there, wetting a line and just enjoying a bit of fishing. Let's get straight into the video. Number one rig, surf and rock fishing. Let's get it. This is one of the most versatile rigs that I like to use because I can change out hook sizes on it relatively quickly and it can be used in the surf or off the rocks. And I can put the rig together in a couple of minutes really if I need to rig up a new one. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope this gives you some information that you can use getting out on a trip for yourself, just getting out there and wetting a line. For the Paternoster rig, I like to use 100 pound. So you need 100 pound. Swivel, snap swivel, few hooks and star sinker. This is a 6 ounce, that's what I like to use off the breakwall and all beaches, whether or not there's swell or bigger swell. It's my cat in the background somewhere. And whether there's bigger swell or smaller swell, the 6 ounce is what I like to use for the weight on the rod that I use, which is the Penn Spinfisher Marina behind me here. That's what gets used down on most of the beaches that I fish. Start off keeping the 100 pound leader just on the actual reel and then tie on a swivel with a uni knot. I'm pretty sure that everyone will know how to do a uni knot, so I won't be running through that. If you do want to know, just let us know in the comments and I can do another little video. Then you want to figure out how much leader you actually want, accounting for the knots that you're going to use as well. I like to use about 2.5 meters when I'm doing that. So I do one full stretch of my arms and then another stretch from the middle there. And that gives me about 2.5, 3 meters of line, which is plenty for surf fishing. Snip that off. And then working back from where your braid is going to be tied onto the swivel, I like to come down about 1.5 feet, 2 foot, and that's where I'll do my first dropper knot. These knots I will show in case people don't know how to use these and you're using triple swivels. I like to use these dropper knots because I find if I've got to re-rig at some point, if a shark's bitten it off or something, that these are a lot quicker than retying 3 knots onto a triple swivel. Back the line onto each other, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it. And then because I've rolled that way, that will roll back through the same way. Hold that up and then pinch it tight. Before you pull that tight, just wet it and then that will pull nice and tight there. And that's your first dropper knot, about 1.5 foot away from the swivel. Figure out what you've got left at the end there. I like to try and keep that so the next one is about 2 foot away from where the weight is going to be. So get yourself 2 feet, that's about 2 foot, and then you've still got a nice distance in between that dropper knot and the second one that you're going to put in. So that again is just another dropper knot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back through again. And then pull that tight. I've not had one of these fail on me yet. The only time that I get them fail is through fault of my own if I've reused one of these rigs from the week before, which I do sometimes. If I don't check it and it's been sitting crimped in the car or something's rubbed up against it, then that's when I've actually lost something. Or I've known that it's got a freight in it and I've still used it because I've been lazy. I always put a snap swivel on before I put the weight on. I like to do that just in case I want to change out to a bigger sinker if the tide is getting too strong down on the beach. Again with that, I just tie that on with a single uni knot. Give yourself plenty of line when you're doing the uni knots. Don't want to have short line, it makes the uni knot quite difficult to end up tying. Tag ends do not go on the rock wall or on the beach. They go in your bag or back in your car. So, and that then obviously, that's been used fairly regularly, this one, and hasn't been lost, which I'm surprised about because I usually lose a ton of gear every time I go fishing. And then that just obviously clips onto there. Everyone knows how these work. Snap swivel. So at the minute, that's what you've got. This is the rig that I sort of reuse if needed, and if it's not, if I've only been using it for snapper off the rock wall, then these can definitely be reused like the next day if you're doing a weekend of fishing. So just quickly look over that. You've got your star sinker to a snap swivel, uni knot, 100-pound leader. That goes up to your first dropper knot. About 2.5 foot to another dropper knot, and then you swivel, and that'll be attached to your braid. So standing up, probably get about 2 meters out of that. I'd say that's bang on 2 meters there. I'm just under 2 meters, and that's about 100 mil above my head, so that's where you want it. Next up, obviously, is what rigs you want to start putting on to that. Depending on whether you want to keep the fish or whether you're just fishing for fun. Obviously, circle hooks are my preference, especially when I'm fishing for snapper, because snapper tend to really take that bait in and take it down. A lot of them get gut hooked, which is really annoying when you want to be releasing them, which means that I always like to change out from just the beak hooks to circle hooks, because they always get right in the corner of the jaw. Nice easy D hooks, and they rarely ever, if ever, will gut hook a fish. I've never had a gut hook on a fish, always perfect hook up side of the mouth with circles. Top tip for this, when you're using two dropper knots, and obviously you don't want that rig being able to hook up with that rig, one of the best ways to do it is hold that rig flat with your dropper knot, run the line out till you get to your second dropper knot, just past it, and that's where you're going to cut it. And what we want to do is cut that bang in the middle. So that's bang in the middle there. And then we've got our 2 rigs for either of the dropper knots. And what we'll do now is just tie on one of the rigs. So your 50-pound leader, that just gets tied on to one of your hooks. All different knots with these, might do a double blood, single uni. So that ties down nice and tight. And then for snapper, I wouldn't say I'll do this all the time, but every now and then I do like to put a bead on there. This bead I don't actually leave down at that hook. I'll show you in a sec what I do with that. So now you've got your single hook on the rig, single circle hook. For snapper, I think that's all you need, is a single hook, circle hook preferably if you're not planning on keeping every single fish. And then a loop knot at the end. So that just backs onto itself. Pretty sure everyone will know how to do a loop knot. If you don't, just keep watching. So there's your line doubled onto each other. Back the line back on itself just once, and then I go through 3 times. 2, 3, and then tighten that up. So that's your rig. Your knot, to just cut that slightly a little bit more. I like to leave a tiny bit on that, but maybe not that much. That's enough. Just gives it a little bit of insurance basically. Tag end, cut that short, but just leave a tiny bit out. And then that's where I move the bead up to the top and just slip it over that. You can get it just on top of the knot ever so slightly, and that will help with knots and the line spinning around, so the line doesn't go back up on itself and get caught back over its own knot. It just keeps sliding back over it, and that's because of that bead. Now you've got your single rig that can sit onto your first dropper knot, loop it back through, and then with that bead as well, it just runs through. There's no catching with the knot, it just runs straight through, and that'll be your rig sitting in the water. Now, another hot tip with this as well is with that, you now know that runs about halfway in between each of them. What you don't want is that second dropper knot having the rig long enough to hook up to that hook, because that's when you're going to get line twist. I don't get much line twist using these rigs, the 50-pound shock leader and the 100-pound, because they're a nice thick leader, they don't actually knot up that bad. Do a double snell on this one. So just the beak hooks. I'll use these beak hooks if I'm using bigger squid or saury. And the snells, if you don't know, then just go through the top. Put the line down most of the way down the shank, and then pull it back down and wrap it around the hook. I do that, I'll say 6 or 8 times really. I never really count, to be honest. Go back up through, pull that nice and tight, and then thread your second one on. Dependent on what baits you're using as well. Obviously, with a bigger bit of saury, you're going to want the hook up there, but I tend to try and keep them pretty close and put a bit of turn on it as well, because when you start tightening it up, that hook is going to turn back round. So if you put a bit of turn on it, it hopefully ends up nice and straight with the other hook. Same again, that just gets wrapped around. Loop back through. And that's your rig. Now you just want your last loop knot. Chuck the bead on the top again. Just let that drop. So double it back over, pull it a bit, go through 3 or 4 times. Go through 3 on this one. I think these beads are slightly smaller than the ones that I usually have. So we're just cutting that off just enough. Leave yourself a little bit on there for a bit of insurance. Make sure that knot is nice and tight, and then put that bead straight back over the 2 ends, and then pull it onto the knot. And that's your second rig. That can go onto the second dropper knot. So what we've got there is your star singer onto your snap swivel, 100-pound leader, first rig, snelled hooks, dropping down to your second rig with your circle hook, and up to your swivel. So they'll be sitting in the water, hanging like that. And we'll just double check these. And that's where the 2 hooks end. So they're never going to hook up to each other when you've got a tight line. And second thing to always check is that your hooks aren't going to hook round your weight at the bottom. I like to keep mine, mostly keep them about that length, always within about a foot. Try not to go much longer than that. Weirdly, I forgot to do ending for this video, but hope this has helped somebody out into setting up a surf or rock fishing rig. Legend, if you've watched to the end of this video, don't forget to like it. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one for doing a bit of surf fishing.